And one more, for good measure. Yeah, we've been talking about a lot of stuff today because there is a lot of stuff to talk about, a lot of rumors, a lot of ideas, a lot of people saying stuff, which is why I wanted to end off today's show, officially, until there's a blockbuster trade at 6 p.m. that we're going to have to make another video about. I wanted to end today's show talking about my Vancouver Canucks, because earlier today, we had ourselves Nick Kypreos publishing his Real Kipper Off-Season Trade Board 2.0 earlier this afternoon. The question is, who could go this summer? And I know you clicked on this video expecting us to talk about one name, but Kipper does go out there and talk about a whole bunch of names on this list. He talks about Marner, he talks about Robertson, he talks about Morgan Riley, Erik Karlsson, Noah Dobson, but the third name that is written about here in this piece is the name that we all care about. Ladies and gentlemen, Nick Kypreos goes out there and gives the latest on Elias Pettersson. It's a big week for the Canucks, Kipper writes, who have 6 days to consider moving Pettersson without any limitations before a full no-movement clause kicks in on July 1st. He managed just 15 goals and 45 points in the first year of an 8-year contract that pays him $11.6 against the salary cap. Vancouver must be careful with how it proceeds, however. Every move the team makes in the next 2 years must be done with Quinn Hughes in mind, seeking ways to be more competitive so the 25-year-old superstar D-man re-ups before his contract expires in 2027. After already trading out JT Miller during the season, the Canucks have a need to add centermen already, so the timing of a Pettersson deal may not be quite right. However, despite his down year offensively, he still has the potential to climb back towards being a 100-point player, so his value hasn't taken as big a hit as many assume. And that right there, ladies and gentlemen, is why we are making this video. Is Elias Pettersson's trade value actually less? Okay, it probably is, but by how much? I think a lot of folks, especially throughout the course of this 24-25 season, had just kind of assumed that the Elias Pettersson evaluation, the numbers, and the desirability in his profile took a big nosedive from this recent year. I think that's really reasonable, right? I mean, Pettersson had a bad year. So what? He had injuries. So what? He fought with one of his teammates. So what? So what? So what? The fact is, this 100-point caliber guy scored only 45 points this previous year. And he was in a spot where in the first year of an $11.6 million AAV contract, he definitely did not show up in the ways that he should have. So, with all that in mind, I think the question here starts to become, how much did that value drop? Is he really? If a team trades for Elias Pettersson, are they really trading for a bargain? And furthermore, how do other teams feel about trading for Elias Pettersson right now? I think, for all of us who listen to Sportsnet 650 quite regularly, I honestly feel like Frank Saravalli may have brainwashed all of us into believing that Elias Pettersson is the most undesirable name on the planet. And the reason I say that is because the way he would talk about Pettersson week in and week out, especially on Halford and Bruff, for example, would be in such a negative way, talking about how teams are scared to trade for this guy and how his value is so low, the Canucks would be selling low, etc., etc. But then you have Nick Kypreos writing about it in his article saying, yeah, no, his value hasn't gone down that much. And because it's a few days removed from Pettersson's full trade protection kicking in, now is the time where other teams are supposedly kicking around and trying to see if a trade can still be made here. Which also bleeds into the idea that says that Petey may actually not be too undesirable. Realistically, of course, teams would want Elias Pettersson. He scored 100 points just a few years ago. And last year, in a down year where the Canucks made the playoffs, he had 89 points. It's not the best, but it's still a lot better than the average Joe. So, for $11.6 million, if teams are going to go out there and assume that Pettersson can bounce back, that he can be that 100-point guy one more time, if it's possible for him, then maybe, if a team really, really wants him, this will be the time to bite. this will be the time to start thinking about, okay, we really want to get that EP40. Let's try to pick it up. Let's try to get it done now. Let's try to give Vancouver some offers. Which is why now we heard from Elliotte Friedman the other day on 32 Thoughts that if the Vancouver Canucks do trade Elias Pettersson, they have to get a center in return. That's the bare minimum. Get a center. You can't roll with Teddy Bluger as your number 1C. Sure, if you get Pettersson off the books, you could probably re-sign Pius Suter. That's possible, but still, it's not ideal to go into the year with Bluger and Suter as your top 2 Cs. It just doesn't really fit like that. Yeah, unfortunately, you need a little bit more support. But I do kind of wonder where this Pettersson stuff is going to go, because if teams are actually starting to think about him in a trade-like capacity again, it could open the door to some team potentially giving more than what we had expected. Is that a center and another prospect? Is it a center and another bottom 6 roster player? If you're trading away Pettersson, of course, you have to try and think about contending in mind, so you need to get assets that make the team better than if you just had Pettersson. It's hard to find a center, pure center, who is just up and away better than Elias Pettersson, because there always is that benefit of the doubt with Petey. Yes, whatever center you can acquire maybe, probably, would have had more than 45 points last season. But Petey having such a down year makes it a lot more difficult to fully put a label on the value and how to properly evaluate what it is that this guy's capable of and what his talent level is at. So for Kypreos to write this, I mean, it is kind of a bomb here. Ultimately, we do have just less than a week to go before this entire situation naturally fixes itself up, either with the Canucks trading Petey or with them just keeping him and having him for the long haul. I'd say it's a lot more likely that he stays. If I had to put like some casino odds label on it, I'd say maybe Pettersson sticking around is like a 95% odd. But with casino games, you cannot ever doubt the 5%. You can't doubt it. Until it becomes 100, you can't say that anything is impossible. So, with all that in mind, I want you to let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. How do you feel about Nick Kypreos' article here saying that Elias Pettersson's trade value actually hasn't gone down as much as we thought it did, and how teams around the NHL are potentially starting to revisit the PD sweepstakes right before that no movement clause kicks in, and he's locked into Vancouver for the next 7 years. 7? Yeah, 7. Thoughts in the comment section below. I hope you enjoyed this video. Trolls 99. And bye.